Today, tonight, this evening, wherever you are around the world, we have the honor and privilege of having Suzanne Evans with us today. And she is going to be talking about um, how to captivate and convert the crowd. How to captivate and convert the crowd. Um, she's been featured as a New York Times bestselling author, and she is just going to blow you away. 5 times Fortune 500 company recognized for empowering entrepreneurs through speaking. Suzanne brings over 15 years of expertise in helping speakers monetize their talent. Black NSA, let's give Suzanne a big welcome and get ready to learn, grow, and thrive. Please welcome Suzanne.
Woo! Thank you.
Let's
Thank you,
go.
Kinston. I appreciate you introducing me. And I have decided that from here on out, I'm going to start all of my talks by saying, by the power that Lethea Owens vested in me. I think that's how I'm gonna start everything from now on. It just works. It feels right. I love it. I love it. Well, let me start by saying this. I have a lot of things I could do tonight. And when I have a group that is, when we have a group that's a smaller group, but also when we have a group that is, that you are geared to speaking, and obviously you are all here because you're already speaking, I would assume, or you are getting ready to speak real soon. And I sometimes just like to say, like, why are you here and what would you like to learn from me? Here's the thing about my speaking. I have, I've spoken thousands and thousands of times. I've do virtual, I do in person, I do events with 1,000 people in them, and I can literally talk about whatever this room needs in the moment. So do I have a PowerPoint? Yes. Do I have something that I can present to you? Yes. But I can also literally have any of you jump in right now and say, you would change my life tonight if fill in the blank. And we can play with a few different things, right? And I really want you to think about that, because here's what happens with speakers so often. Listen, there's just a lot more broke speakers than there are wealthy speakers, right? And what I really focus on is making speakers wealthy, because speakers don't need to speak. Speakers need to earn some money. And the reason you need to earn money is because for me, and I believe for the people that I coach and I teach and I train, we are people who use that money to shift things. See, I don't believe that money is for getting things. I believe that money is for changing things. And the more money you have, the more you can change, right? Whether that is in your life and in your family and generationally, or that is for social impact, or that is for philanthropy, or that is for whatever cause is near and dear to your heart, or for legacy, right? So I think that a lot of speakers get really caught up on the speaking side of things. And that is the easiest part of speaking. See, if I were to tell you one thing today, it would be like, choose to do anything but be a speaker. And here's why. Here's why. People think speaking is what I'm doing right now, right? People think speaking is what I've seen Lethea do many, many times over the years so beautifully and brilliantly. That's actually not speaking. Speaking is traveling for 3 days to get somewhere, right? That the flight is late, right? Are you with me, everybody? The flight is late, right? Like, you don't get upgraded, right? You're trying to get somewhere, then you got to eat a lousy Marriott Cobb salad, right? And they forgot the dressing. And then you get there and they told you to bring your PowerPoint in PowerPoint, but really they only have Keynote, right? And so you're in the back of the room, like trying to change stuff to Keynote. That's actually what speaking is. I tell people you have to be miserable for days to have 45 minutes of joy, right? And so if you can be a person who can tolerate that, right? You have a ability to be disciplined, then speaking can be your thing, right? I tell people all the time, I do tons of stuff that I hate so that I can do this for a little bit of time. So I just want to open it up. You know, they had said do some Q&A at the end, and I'm actually going to do some Q&A in the beginning, right? So I'm going to give you a little bit of context about me so that you might have more information on what I could bring to the table tonight. And don't worry, I'll make sure inside of that I cover everything that I've got in the little PowerPoint that might be useful to you, that you can use to make more money, be a better speaker, get more gigs, all of that good stuff. But I've done about $75 million from speaking. $75 million from speaking directly. And like Lethe or anybody else that's ever heard me speak also knows I have a tendency towards the blunt. Right. I'm just going to tell you like it is tonight. Right. I'm not a big fan of keynoting. And the reason I'm not, so a couple of things. One, during COVID, the industry really, really changed. So some of my best friends are in the Speakers Hall of Fame, and most of them shifted to a selling from the stage model, right? Like one of my best friends, Larry Wingett, he's now retired, but the last 4 to 5 years of his life, he did very few keynotes, and he was paid $35,000 to $45,000 a keynote because the model just changed. Because here's what happens, right? If Kinston is out there, right, looking to book a keynote and he's wanting 15,000 for that keynote, well, I'm going to come and speak for free, right? Because I know how to turn that into a $150,000 speaking gig, right? And I'm going to show you guys speaker math tonight. So much of the industry around speaking changed over the last 5 years because a little bit because of COVID, a little bit because of virtual, but mainly because the people that conferences and workshops and events and things could get access to, right? They could get access to people who aren't going to charge 20,000, right? They're not going to charge $10,000. And while as we know, there are large corporations and there's large events that have massive speaker budgets. We know that those speaker budgets go to celebrities for the most part, right? A lot of that speaking budget goes to celebrities. So I really like to see speakers make a ton of money, right? And my clients over the last 12 to 15 years have done over $650 million from their speaking gigs, right? Because I like to really look at how can you optimize an opportunity, not once, but for years, right? I'll give you an example. I look at the stage as stages as that there are three types of stages. And I have a PowerPoint on this slide I'll show you in a little bit. But you can build stages, you can buy stages, or you can book stages. Buy, build, or book, right? And those three types of stages all serve a purpose, right? Of you being able to revenue generate, right? So booking stages is obvious, right? You guys get it. It's either booking a stage, and if it's a keynote, you're being paid to speak there, or it's just booking a stage to speak because you want to go and you want to make an offer or you want to make a free offer. Buying stages, many of you have probably heard this before, it's the sponsorship model. It's actually where you pay to get on a stage. It's a very valuable model. I will tell you, it has really led the speaker space for the last 3 to 4 years. Some people hate it because they're like, I didn't get in this to pay for stages. Well, if I can pay for a stage and turn around and, generate $100,000 from spending $5,000, y'all, I can do math. Now I flunked it 3 times in college, but I can count money. So here's the thing, right? If I can do that, I'm going to do it all day long. Now I will tell you, I think a part of that is collapsing right now. And I can speak to that a little bit if you want, but that is a piece. That's the buying. And then the building is building your own stages, right? That's doing your own events. That's holding your own webinar. That's holding your own masterclass. Hell, that's going live on Facebook, right? That's your stage, that's your people, and delivering a speech. People also lose sight of what a speech is, right? People think of speaking as taking a stage. Speaking is anytime you open your mouth, right? and you are delivering a message of some sort. You are delivering a message, you're delivering a story. I always say one speech changes everything. Because if you look at my business, right? If you look at the business that's generated over $75 million, speaking is the bullseye. And I build everything out from speaking, right? I build everything out from speaking. All of my content is directly from my speech. All of my social media is directly from my talks. All of my products, programs, and services that I sell and I deliver directly come from my speech. If you want to reverse engineer everything in my business, it goes back to the core, which is speaking, right? So those are the three types of stages. I use all three types every single year to revenue generate, to lead generate, right? To offer my products, programs, and services. And I think that's really critical as we look at the speaking space and the speaking industry right now, and what is shifting and what is changing and what is viable and what is not viable. So that's a little bit like that's the, I started as a secretary. I started as a secretary making $50,000 a year. I had an idea that I wanted to be a speaker. I wanted to be a coach. As a side hustle, I started speaking poorly. I think that's really important. Poorly, right? My dear friend Larry Winget said years ago, and it's one of my favorite things he ever said. He said there are just hundreds of thousands of middle-aged white men eating Salisbury steak every day at a meeting and falling asleep in their mashed potatoes and Salisbury steak. You might as well be the speaker they fall asleep to. And his point was, and always is, right? Like, you go to the damn rotaries. You go, right? Because when you get in front of people, first of all, you build your craft. Second of all, you build your reputation. Third of all, there is some, person who is not falling asleep in their Salisbury steak, and you are exactly, a solution to their problem. But I did that, right? And I started doing that as a side hustle. I was working a 60-hour-a-week day job. I was working a 60-hour-a-week day job, and on nights and weekends, I was building my business. And I built it to six figures in a year as a side hustle. I was making $50,000 in the job. I was making six figures in the side hustle, and I did not quit my job because a job is the best business loan you will ever have. No interest, and you don't have to pay it back. Right. So I stayed in that job for year two, and I grew the business to $250,000 while making about 60,000 in the day job. I transitioned out of the day job, and we went to $1 million in under 10 months. And I've had every year grown from there and had a multi-million-dollar business every single year. 90% of my revenue to this day comes directly from speaking, right? So we will do $6 to $7 million a year, and 90% of that revenue comes directly from speaking. And obviously, even the 10%, my marketing director always says, and Suzanne, you need to say that other 10% comes in directly from speaking, right? So my entire foundation of my business for the past 15 years has really come from that. Now we do other things now. Yes, we run Facebook ads, and yes, we do other things, but really leading my business to the $1 million mark, I joined one networking group and I spoke. Those are the only two things I did to grow that business while working a 60-hour-a-week day job, right? So that gives you a little context. What I brought to go through with you today, as I said, I have the ability to go, because I also use something called the accordion method when I speak. I can go through that with you in 3 days, or I could go through it with you in about 20-25 minutes, right? So now what I want to ask you is, if I could teach you one thing tonight that would absolutely change your life, what would it be? And you can just unmute yourself. Like, you don't have to be polite and raise your hand. Just like, what would be life altering for you to learn?
I
Tracy,
think,
go
I
ahead.
think, uh, I think Lethea had a question
Oh,
first.
did she? Did I miss it?
I'd love to hear your wisdom on topics as it relates to marketing, your brilliance, selling from the stage, and getting paid to speak.
Great. Awesome. Love it. Love it. Love it. Absolutely.
You've
Anybody
already
else? Yeah, Lethea.
you've already kind of started to really answer that, but it was this idea of what's working, what's not working, what shifts have occurred and trends. So yeah.
Yeah, and I'll walk you through the selling from the stage. I have that. Anybody else?
Mine was selling from the stage. So
Love it. Love it. Beautiful. So let's start with that. Yeah, Kathleen saying converting from the stage. Let's start with that. So here's where, and I wish I had a big whiteboard actually here. So bear with me with the imagery of this. So when people speak, this is kind of the lead they take with speaking. This idea, Kathleen, like I'm going to stand on the stage and I'm going to inspire you, right? I'm going to move you. I'm going to motivate you to want to take a step with me, right? It's a persuasion model is how, whether somebody's using that word or not, that's what is mainly taught. Does that make sense, everybody? Right? This persuading the audience. And I actually teach the antithesis of that, right? And what I teach is that from the moment you speak, right? From the very moment you speak, and tonight is a little different. I'll actually give you a taste of how I would normally start a speech like this. You guys, you can't do it with you. Well, maybe I'll pick on Roderick and Yolanda for a little bit here in a second, and you'll get my point. But I'll show you how I usually start a virtual talk. Roderick's like, nah, I'm getting on camera. Don't you do it. Don't you do it.
I'm good with it.
But what I do when I teach someone to speak or I talk to someone about speaking is the antithesis of this persuasion concept. What I do is I sweep in and separate the room. And, Lethea might even be able to, after I talk about this a little bit, to talk about what that's like on the audience side, because she has seen me speak so many times. But this is a writer downer for every single one of you. There is no money in the middle. There is no money in the middle. And I'll talk to you about what that means in just a second. But I walk into a room and I am, my absolute goal is to separate the room into lovers and haters, right? And I am just as focused. You guys can go see a Instagram post. What am I? Kathy and Melissa, will you throw my socials in there while we're doing it? But I had an Instagram post about a week ago where, so my son, he had his first little sleepover and a friend came over and slept over at his house. And we had put them to bed. We knew they were going to stay up, they were going to stay up kind of late and do their thing kids do. And we got up the next morning and Adrian had stayed up all night long. I have a 9-year-old son. He'd stayed up all night long. We had warned him. We had loved him. We had said, and I don't care if they stay up late. But then, of course, he couldn't function he had never pulled an all-nighter in his life. And he stayed up all night because he went down and got his friend's iPad that was charging because his friend had a game on. Any moms in this, dads in this room, like getting it, right? So the next day, listen, I let him sleep in. I let him sleep in some. And then his ass needed to go to basketball practice. And he was not going to miss basketball practice because he made a poor decision. So we were we loved him into waking up. We poked him into waking up. So finally, I went out and got 2 pan lids and did some symbols walking around the couch trying to get his butt. And listen, my wife was filming me. I'm laughing. She's laughing. He like kicks at me and eventually gets up and he's laughing too. Well, I posted the video she took of me because it's kind of an inside joke with my sister doing that. And we had sent it to her. Oh, let me tell you, did I make the internet mad? Oh my gosh, this is child abuse. This is who would, listen, I know people didn't have context that he had slept 7 hours, right? And also people have lost a sense of humor. We know that if you've ever been online. But people, y'all, they came for me. I don't know what, Kathy, 2,000 comments? 2,000 comments and 80% of them, like, do you know what a bad mom you are? Do you know what a bad parent you are? And guys, I'm just sitting in my room going, oh my God, they're just building my list. Yeah. They're building my list. Watch the numbers go up. I did a post on Facebook about 2 months ago after I did a triathlon. I've lost 130 pounds over the last couple of years. And I did a post and everybody said, you've never run a triathlon. Why would you post this and lie? Look how fat you are. 24 million views on that post. 80% of the posts, people being cruel, hateful, mean. And at the end of the day, we grew our Facebook followers by 21,000. Come for me, bitches. Come for me. Right? And I say that because that's how I walk into every room I speak in. right, is I mean, I'm not waking up going, oh, I'm going to write a speech to trigger Dr. Anthony. I mean, that's not how I'm thinking. But do you in this room have a POV? Right? Do you have a POV? And a POV is a lens through which you see the world. And when you have a strong POV, it should be a POV that no one can argue with, right? So you cannot argue with my POV. My POV is that money is the easiest thing in the world to get. And you can't argue with it. If I say, try to tell me it's not, right? Try to tell, you can't, because the argument that I can make against that will make you wrong every single time, right? And so when I walk into a room, my goal is to divide and conquer, right? Let me tell you, there are people who hate me so much, they have to buy my programs just to hate me in person. Come on, money be money. Money be money, right? Like, bring it. I'm happy for it because I have a clear point of view and an opinion. So the way that I usually, let me grab one over here, that I start virtual speaking gigs, because you all know, how many of you are speaking virtually some? You're doing some virtual, usually only 30% of people are actually with their cameras on, right? They're actually with their cameras on. So I have this sitting here, just brought it in, and I'll use this. So this is how I typically start a gig. And this is going to get back to selling from the stage and the concept that I use. So I'll usually walk into a room and I'll say, thank you so much for having me today. I am so excited to be here with you. Now, I want you to get on camera, because when you are on camera, you are an active audience member, right? You're an active audience member. You are here because you want to grow your business. You want visibility. You want to be seen, and you cannot be a success and be a secret. So I need everybody on camera. I know there may be one or two of you. It's not safe because you're driving or something, but that's only about one of two of you. Everybody else should be on camera, because here's the deal, Lethea. If we had agreed to do this at, let's say, the Hampton Inn, right? We had said, yeah, we're going to have Suzanne come speak and we're going to be at the Hampton Inn, right? And all of a sudden you guys come in to see me speak and to have your meeting and see the officer sworn in, and you walk into the Hampton Inn with a bag on your head and you go, y'all, I'm here. I want to be visible. I want to be seen. I want to be a speaker. I'm here to make connections. I'm here to make you remember me. None of you would do that because you look like an asshole. None of you would do that. But it's exactly what you do when you come to a Zoom and you don't get on camera, right? You expect to be respected, but you don't have enough respect for the event or the speaker to actually turn your camera on. Now, guess what happens in that moment? One of 5 things happens. Remember, this is a writer down, everybody. There are 5 things you must make people feel every time you speak: mad, glad, sad, happy, or scared. Mad, glad, sad, happy, or scared. So I pissed some people off from the first 5. Who is she to come in here and tell me I'm not respected? I'd be on camera, right? So get the mad. Some people die laughing, right? They're like, oh my God, she's got a bag on her head, right? I now have had people say, oh, I saw you speak, you're the bag lady, right? So you get the glad, right? You get some people who are triggered by it. Right? It makes them, they're like, oh my God, now she's offended, right? Some people are giggling. I don't think it scares anybody. Well, I'm sure I've scared someone, right? But I am immediately making people feel something. So you are with me or you are not with me. And so when I come into a room to make offers from the stage, I am immediately forcing that impact, right? Because I do not want to persuade you into inspiration. When I get to my offer, right, and I'll show you in just a couple of minutes my formula for that. When I get to my offer, I don't want Jason to go, wow, right? Like, I need this from Suze. I think I need this from Suzanne, and I'm persuaded to take a next step with her. See, that's how everybody sells from the stage. What I want Jason to go is, holy shit, I can't leave this experience. See, most people are trying to get people to step into an experience. I create that experience in the first 3 minutes of me speaking, so that when I get to the offer, you're not deciding to do something. You have to decide to stop doing something. And it is much harder to stop doing something than it is to do something. Are you with me, everybody? Right? So that is my essence of selling from the stage. It's a very different speaking strategy, because I immediately get people in. And when I have a a flip chart or something when I'm showing, I show this circle and I immediately get you inside of the circle. And so when offer time comes, you have to make the conscious decision to leave the circle. That is a much more difficult path than decide. Does that make sense, everybody? It's a much more difficult. People, you think about it. How many of you have a child? Right? How many of you have a child? Okay. Did anybody in here have thoughts about having another child, and maybe you ended up not, but you thought, do I want to have a third child? Do I want to, anybody else? Yeah. I want you to think about this. Would you rather have another child or lose one you have? It's not even to be discussed, right? I mean, there's no discussion here. And I want you to start thinking about that as a speaker. Would my audience rather get something? Does that make sense, everybody? Or have to give something up, right? And if you come out, one of the things that I talk about in terms of being captivating is you have a very limited amount of time, typically under a minute, right? To create a whiplash. And in that whiplash, you have that minute to what I say is to steal the show. Right? I want you to shift your purpose work. If I ask all of you, and I do this sometimes, and I don't want to take the time to do it tonight, but I would say, what is your purpose? I'm going to have people put in there to have an impact, right? To make a difference, to help people, to whatever it is, right? I know what you're going to say because I've asked this question 5 trillion times and I get the same 40 answers, right? I want you to change your life purpose right now. Everybody in this room should only have one singular life purpose, and that is to steal the show. That's your only purpose. Those other things are things you want to do in the world, and they're beautiful things. Congratulations, right? But your purpose should be to steal the show. Every time I speak, my purpose is to steal the show. Every time I am on Facebook, my purpose is to steal the show. Every time I walk into the room, my purpose is to steal the show. Because when you steal the show, right, you create authority, you create credibility, you create attention, and we are living in an attention economy. Let me tell you, there are 50 million Lori's on Instagram right now who are not as good as Lori. They're not as educated as Lori. They're not as smart as Lori. They're not as ready as Lori, but they can work Instagram. We are living in an attention economy. And so you have to learn to get that attention quickly, right? Does that make sense, everybody? The idea of giving something up over getting something? Yeah. If anybody's got a question, throw it in here. I'm gonna open up my slides here and show you a few things. But if there's a question, either unmute yourself while
I did have a question.
yeah, do it while I'm getting this going.
I'm curious about the revenue you've made outside of getting directly paid for speaking, because that's something that I want to build. I know that you just can't make a living. Some people could, but I'm not there yet. Just from speaking fees, what is the other revenue streams that you have, and how did you leverage?
Absolutely. So telling you a couple of things, Dr. Anthony. First thing is
Just call me Anthony. Just call me Anthony.
Okay. I do not have a doctor in front of my name, so I respect it. So first thing is that I get asked to speak for fee on occasion. We don't seek it, but I get asked it. Every time I'm asked it, Kathy will tell you, we turn it down. We say, we would prefer this over your money, because I can, there's a big joke. I don't know if you guys, does anybody know Scott McCain? A great speaker. So Scott McCain and Larry Wingett and Joe Calloway and I were in a room once, and they were all talking about what they did. And it got to me, and I said, I can't afford to be a keynoter. And somebody said, oh, interesting. What do you mean? I said, they're getting paid like $35,000 a keynote. I go speak and always turn it into $150,000. I can't afford to be a keynote. Right. And Dr. Anthony, it's true, right? It's like, I don't want your $30,000 because I will turn it into 300,000. I paid, and I'll answer your question here in just a second. I paid $50,000 for a speaking gig years ago. I paid $50,000 to speak. In 11 months time from that speaking gig, I generated $1.2 million from that. So what do I offer? I offer, obviously my business was a bit different then, but as of today, I have a program called Spotlight, which is a done for you speaker program. We write the speeches for people. We put people on stages. We do your funnels. We do your video, blah, 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 right? So that's a program. I also have a business coaching mastermind for high level business coaching. I have that. And then I have a division of my company called Driven Performance. Many of you may know the Olympian Marion Jones. Marion Jones and I have a division in which we have multiple programs inside of that. And then we have sales programs. I'm getting ready to run a program next month or this month called Slay the Day, right? It's a very, very specific teaching speakers, teaching coaches, teaching experts how to close sales. So I have a portfolio of coaching services and some products that do that. Yeah. And we have high ticket, we have low ticket, but that's the short answer. That's the short answer.
Got it.
Absolutely. It says start sharing screen will stop somebody else's sound share. Is that okay, team? If I say that? I don't know.
Yes, you can go ahead and do
I'm
that.
going to do it. And if I blow the world up, just yell at me. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go through a few things here. Some of them I've touched on a little bit in what we've already done, but I want to, I just want to walk you through a couple of things. All right. So here we go. Okay. As I shared, right? This is how I hit New York Times bestseller list. I hit the New York Times bestseller list with a strategy that I built around speaking, right? All the press I've gotten, been on the Inc. 500, 5,000, 5 straight years, all came from speaking, right? And speaking is my focus strategy that I use for all of that. And this is the other thing. I don't need to convince you all of speaking, but I want to say this, right? I have a 9-year-old son. I homeschool him. I do the homeschooling myself. And what I love about speaking is the lifestyle that it provides to you. You know, we travel all over the world. You know, this year we went to Switzerland for speaking. We went to Hawaii for speaking. I went to Italy for speaking. We went to, I mean, you know, I can name place after place after place. So I don't have to convince you all of that. But also, I would say, Anthony, is that when you kind of combine the speaking with offering products and programs and services, then that also allows for you to build out whatever lifestyle you want. Go wherever you want, right? Create whatever you want as a part of that as well, which I love. Okay, this is what I talked about a moment ago, right? There are really 3 types of gigs. You can book them, you can buy them, or you can build them, right? Booking them, you research, you reach out, and you book. And what I'm going to teach you tonight is my strategy. I always want you to speak for free, right? I want you to speak for free because what you can do on the back end of that is make a lot more money. So that buying them is sponsorships where you pay to speak on stages, and building them is where you either host your own events or your own summits or your own speaking gigs or your own masterclass or your own webinars, right? So what do you say inside of that talk? Right? So again, this is the model. I say model, it's really a framework, because one of the other things that I will say is if anybody tells you like, oh, here's the script for speaking, run, because there is no script for speaking. The best speakers are, they're conversationalists, right? I mean, they know how to tell a story. They know how to look through the world. And if I had more time tonight, I'd walk you through the story framework, which is really critical that all of you that are speaking, I'm gonna come off this for just a second, that you are telling we stories, not me stories. That's a writer downer, right? Most people are telling me stories. I say this with all due respect. Nobody cares you had cancer. Nobody cares that you got divorced. Nobody cares you got laid off. Nobody cares. People only care about themselves. So if you can't figure out how to find, and this is the term we use in my world, a universal story, right? The moment Kathy Harley takes the stage and says, you know, when I was going through chemo, I'm out because I didn't go through chemo, right? I'm out, right? It has to be a universal story. I'll give you an example. I've done a couple of triathlons in the last year, and my bike came up to Maine. I'm in Maine for the summer, and I hadn't gotten on my bike yet. And Maine is hilly. I really like riding flat. Maine is hilly. Got on the bike. My sister and I decided to do a loop we had never done. And we started to go up, and I started to panic because this was a really steep hill. And I'm in clip-ons, right? They're all called clipless, but where your feet are clipped in. And I started to tell myself, take a breath, calm down, and just fall, right? But make sure you fall not into the road. That's always the key. Fall to the side. So I'm kind of convincing myself, right? Like, you know how to fall, tuck, because this is the only way to do it. I can't clip out. It's too steep. I don't think I'm going to make it. And I had this moment where I remembered a YouTube video I watched last summer when I first started doing clipless. And this curmudgeony old man had the best YouTube series on going clipless on bikes. And he said, it's pretty hard to fall if you just keep pedaling. And I remembered him saying that. And I said, Suzanne, don't stop pedaling, right? I know it's a slow pedal, but don't stop pedaling. And I crested that hill, and I actually had a little tear come down my because I'd gotten myself so worked up. I was a little bit emotional, scared, emotional. And when I finished the ride that afternoon, I sat here and I said, that's what my speakers do. They're so focused on falling that they stop pedaling. And it's really hard not to become a successful speaker if you just keep pedaling, right? If you just keep pedaling, right? And it can be slow, it can be ugly, you can be crying while you do it. But the best speakers that we all know are not the most talented. They're just the ones that keep pedaling, right? So I share that with you. What? How many of you have ridden a bike before? Yeah, so we can all relate to that, universal. How many of you can relate to being in the middle of something and going, holy hell, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this, right? Universal story. How many of you can relate to overcoming it because you remember something is possible, right? Everything I just did then is a universal story, right? It's universal, and I'm able to use that to relate to the whole room, right? So really critical that you are not telling me stories, right? Nobody cares that your cat had tuberculosis and you were, you know, you lost your job while it happened and your boyfriend left you. Nobody cares, right? We want universal stories. So I'll give you a 30-second tip of an assignment that I give my clients. We spend hours on this, but I'm going to tell it to you in 30 seconds. I say, look at the last 48 hours of your life. Only the last 48. If you're really struggling, I'll let you have 72. And think of something that happened. It doesn't need to be earth-shattering, but it's got to be more than I woke up, right? So maybe you tripped walking the dog. Maybe the dog ran out the front door. Maybe you were at the grocery store and you accidentally cut somebody in line and you got yelled. You know what I mean? It needs to be a moment, but it doesn't need to be that you climbed Mount Everest, right? Think of that. Then think, is there a moral to this story? And if there's a moral to the story, go, okay, now I'm going to enhance it and dramatize it. Mad, glad, sad, happy, or scared, right? Those are the best stories you will ever tell. Here are my stories that I've told for 15 years. I tell a story about, and I usually tell it in the first quarter of my speech, about working that day job. And let me, you kind of heard a little bit of it, that I was working the day job and I started the business. So I worked in the Broadway theater industry. I opened 5 Broadway shows, Annie Get Your Gun, Sweet Charity, Chicago, Wonderful Town, and Seussical. And we opened Seussical. I was assistant producer, which is a fancy word for secretary. And we opened Seussical, and Seussical was a $12 million loss. It opened, it closed pretty quickly. Things were not great in the office. I came in on a Monday morning and they had taken away the sodas and the snacks. If any of you have worked in corporate and they take away the sodas, you know what's going on, right? So I'm trying to start this business. The company I'm working for is having a hiccup, and we are trying to open a new show. We're trying to open a new show. The way the Broadway theater industry works is you take a show and you try it out of town before you bring it into Broadway. We're opening the musical Sweet Charity, and it's starring Christina Applegate. Christina Applegate had broken her ankle in Detroit, and she had broken her attitude in Minneapolis. And we're trying to get the show open. I'm sitting on the third row of what we call wet techs, which is dress rehearsals. And I'm kind of dreaming about the business, and I'm sitting there going, here I am, and another this, and I hadn't really got the business going yet. Because here's what I'd done, y'all. I had planned to get ready to start to plan, to almost be ready to start planning, to get ready, to almost be ready to launch my business. Anybody relate to that here? Right? I was getting ready to be ready. And so Sweet Charity is in dress rehearsals, and there's this number where these women, right, showgirls, legs above my head, these gorgeous women come to the front of the stage and they sing, there's got to be something better than this. There's got to be something bigger to do. And when I find that something better to do, I'm going to get up, get out, and go live it. And I went, shit, they are singing to me, right? Get up, get out, and go live it. And here I am trying to get ready to start my business. And you know God has a sense of humor, because they ran that number 23 times that night. It had a lighting issue. And I said, I get it, God. I get it. I get it. This is my sign. If I don't start this business, like, what do I need? A bigger sign? My butt's going to get hit by a cab tonight, right? Like, what else do I need? And I started my business the next morning. I called every friend, family member I knew, and I said, listen, you got two options. You either become a client or you get me one, or I'm going to call you every day and stalk you. And I got two clients that paid me $50 each. Two clients. They each paid me $50, but I was in business. I was making $100 a month. And I went on to grow that business to a six-figure. Okay, did you see what I just did, everybody? That is not, am I in that story? Yes, but that story is not about me. That story is about a Broadway show. That story is about procrastinating and getting ready to be ready, right? So that is a signature story that I tell in every speech I give almost, right? And so that's one of my stories. I tell a ballet recital story in some of my talks. I've been telling it for 15 years, right? It's all about all these children screaming and running off the stage for a little kid's ballet recital. I tell a Krispy Kreme story. I tell a Waffle House story. I tell a lot of food stories. Again, let me use Larry Wingate as an example. Larry told a Radio Shack story, a Sonic story, and a DoubleTree Hotel story for 25 years. He retired the Radio Shack story when Radio Shack went out of business, because when he would get to millennials, they had never heard of Radio Shack, right? I've told the same story. You get a few core stories, right? And that is everything. That is everything. Okay, so the talk. Here's the framework, right? Because there are no scripts for a great talk. There are frameworks. And here's the framework I use in every single time I deliver a talk. I went off the rails a little bit tonight and started a little different to see what you all wanted. But if I'd come in, I'd start with the bag on my head. I would have then moved into the signature story and then be kind of where we are now. So let me show you this. This gives you a little detail about it. So inspire, that's a whiplash. You have to grab them by the shirt collar. You have to grab their attention, get them to wake up. That is the whiplash. Whether that's a bag on your head, whether that's a statistic, whether that is a quick story that just blows people away, you have to whiplash them. Then you have to establish the problem, right? In this case, like, speakers don't make enough money because they're not doing it the right way. You tease the solution, right? Which there is a way to do it. You build trust with a signature story, and then you get into your education. And that's where I am right now with you. For this particular talk, there's 3 points I'm making. One is, where do you speak? And I did that with the build stages, buy stages, book stages. What do you say, which is what I'm doing right now with you? And then how do you make money, which I'll share with you in just a moment. Then is the invitation, right? That's the ask, the free or the paid offer. I love a free offer. To this day, we make a lot of free offers. We make paid offers as well, but we make a lot of free offers, right? There's something that I teach called triple touch marketing. And that is, when you think about this, when I showed up tonight, you didn't leave. So far, you've all stayed. But that's the first connection we make, is that I'm speaking and Jason and Lori are like, okay, right? Like, I'm here, I'm staying on camera, I'm engaged. That's that first touch. Then I'm giving you content. You're going, yes, because you're staying. You didn't leave. You said yes to me. That's 2 yeses. Then I make a free offer. Let's say you say yes to that free offer. That's already 3 yeses that you've made to me. I always, in that free offer, want there to be some point of connection, a Zoom call, a phone call, a meeting. And then once Anthony shows up to that, he said yes to me 4 times. Does that make sense? Right? That's the 4th time he said yes to me. By the time he shows up, I don't have to sell anything. He's already said yes to me 4 times, right? So I make the right offer to him if I know he has a problem that I can solve. And it's it's a layup, because that's that triple touch marketing as opposed to sales that doesn't build that credibility and trust. So that's the invitation. And after an invitation, you always have to have motivation. You have to give people a reason to say yes today. We all know it. We need a raincoat. We don't go buy it. We procrastinate it. We end up walking out going, damn it, why didn't I get a raincoat again? And then we see that Macy's all coats are 50% off. And somehow we miraculously get in the car and go get a raincoat because they've given us a reason to finally do something on our to-do list, right? You've got to give people a reason to take action today. So you want to use an urgency bonus or a limiter bonus, and you always want to have an emotional wrap up of your talk. This is something you're going to want to take a screenshot of. I go into, when I'm doing my events, I go into a lot more depth on this, but this is kind of the percentage of time you spend in each of those categories. And when I said I used the accordion method earlier, I really start everybody with a 1-minute talk, because you will give a 1-minute talk more in your lifetime than you'll ever give a 45-minute talk or a 60-minute talk. And from that 1-minute talk, it's an accordion method. I can expand it to 60 seconds. I can expand it to 6 hours. I can expand it to 6 days. And same for a 60-minute talk. I can collapse that to a 15-minute talk. I can collapse it to a 1-minute talk when you use this framework. So it really is what I call the accordion method. So how do you make money, right? And Anthony was saying that earlier. He said, like, what is it that you're doing? I'm going to do a little speaker math for you. Okay. So let's say that you have a product, program, or service that is $5,000, right? I'm a coach, so I'm going to use coaching as an example, right? You have a coaching program that's $5,000. So you book a free gig. You're not making any money off of that. You're speaking for free. And it's a small gig. It's 25 people, right? 25 people. You make your free offer. If you make a fabulous free offer and you do it right and you do it well, my clients will convert upwards of 70% of the room, but I use 30% here. That's what I used here, just to say you're just starting out. And let's say you convert 30%. That means 8 people raised their hand and said, Jason, I want more, right? Like, yes, I want to get on a phone call with you. Yes, I want to talk to you. And if you have a $5,000 coaching program, you should convert 20 to 25% of those 8 people into that. That would be about 2 sales. That is $10,000 off of that one speaking gig. If you do that twice a month, that's $20,000 a month. You can play with the math here. If you have a $3,000 program, it's going to be a little less than that. If you have a $10,000 program, it's going to be double that, right? You can literally do nothing else. And that's what I do. I mean, this is what I do. I literally do nothing else. And when you take it further faster, right? Let's say you book a gig, 25 attendees, but now you're making offers from stage that are paid. So you have a $2,000 program. Should be converting about 20%. My clients convert between 25 and 30%. Typically, sometimes typical is 15%, but this gives you an idea. That's 5 sales. So you make $10,000 at the event while you're there. If you have, this is going back to Anthony's question, the right business model, I call it a money mountain. If you have the right money mountain, everybody that spends with you, 30 to 40% of everybody that spends with you should spend again with you, right? They should go up that model, up that money mountain, right? So if you made $10,000 on the front end, but you're still doing calls with people for possible upsells or cross sells, then you should be looking at upselling or cross-selling another 30 to 40% of those people. And if you have a $10,000 program now, that's 2 more sales. That's 30,000 off of that one gig, right? And that's just pretty much what I talk about in the first 90 days of a speaking gig, right? Then you can imagine the compounding interest of that over time. So How do you make $1 million? How do you build $1 million business? It's really simple. $1 million business in 365 days. It's 47 gigs a year, about 3.9 a month of just 25 people, or it's 2 gigs a month of 50 people with that exact model I just showed you. And this is, one of the things I teach over and over again is just taking the complication out of business. I can tell you, and you need to write this down, every single person in this room is 47 speaking gigs away from $1 million. 47. That's the math. That's the math. Ann Hessian is a client of mine. She did $500,000 this year. She did 25 speaking gigs this year. Alexis Caldecott is a client of mine. She just crossed the $1 million mark, and she did 49 speaking gigs this year. David Vance, going to do about 300,000 this year. He did about 20 speaking gigs this year. It is almost foolproof by about a 10% margin, right? If you use that framework and you use that model and you book the gigs, doesn't matter if they're in person or virtual. Doesn't matter if you're getting a little stipend to do it and they still let you make that free offer on the back end, which also can happen on occasion. You are 47 speaking gigs away from $1 million. Remember, there are 7,000 meetings a day looking for a speaker in North America only. 7,000 meetings a day looking for a speaker in North America only. It is like shooting fish in a barrel. I hate saying it this way sometimes, but I tell people all the time, stop doing everything else, right? And just do this because it works every single time if the person works it. And as you can all imagine, it works faster for some people. It works, but works a little slower for some people. We all have our talents. We all have our gifts, but I've never seen it not work, right? The speed is going to be different for every person, but I've never seen it not work, right? So that's how you build $1 million business in a year. So what I've discovered in just some of my clients that I've worked with, Danella Burnett and Shanda Sumter, and lots and lots of folks I've worked with, thousands and thousands of clients, but almost everybody you see on here, I'm pretty sure has $1 million plus business. And some of them came to me at 0. Some of them came to me at making 50,000. Some of them came to me at already making, 100,000 and wanting to scale, but it's the exact same framework that they used, right? So if you are interested in taking this further, what I just shared with you, I have an offer for you, right? It's called Wealthy Speaker Workshop, right? And this is a 2-day workshop that I lead virtually. So you don't have to get on a plane. You don't have to eat a lousy Marriott Cobb salad. You don't even have to wear shoes. But you do have to be on camera. You do have to be on camera or I harass you. But it's Wealthy Speaker Workshop. Our next one, I'll give you the dates in just a second, but it's the 2-day premier speaker training event focusing on selling from the stage, right? That's what I focus on, is selling from the stage. You'll position yourself as a leader in your industry, craft your irresistible talk, build a powerful personal brand, diversify your revenue streams. And Anthony, that's kind of what we're talking about, is how you build out those revenue streams, fill your programs, scale and leverage. These are some folks who have attended, had another client renewal, bringing weekly up to 36,000. Alex Moscow, killer offer. Love that you're doing this. Last year, he generated 608,000. And I made a bet with him. I said, I can show you how to make over 600,000 in 3 days. You made it all in a year. And he took me up on that bet. I showed him and it actually worked. So here's the deal. We charge $47 for this, and it's nothing for all of you here. Nothing. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to do a bonus. I'm going to do an urgency bonus simply because I wanted to model how you do this. So my team's dropping the link in the chat. It is my gift to you to attend. And did we have the dates on here? Did I miss that, team?
We didn't put the dates on here because it's still tentative on our calendars, but it's September 3rd and 4th is the tentative date.
Yeah, so it's in September. And if you can't make that one, I'll obviously transfer your ticket to one that's upcoming. But here's what we're going to do. We are, oops, I accidentally clicked the link. Look at that. Here's what we're going to do. I also have a little bonus for the first 9 of you. So for the first 9 of you that say, yep, I'm going to register and I'm going to do this. Here's what I've got for you. I have a program called the Speaking Solution, and it is a 7-module course showing you exactly how to use speaking to grow $1 million business. I launched this program and it was a 1997 program. And I think once I discounted it to 1,000, but the majority of the sales were a $2,000 program. And I sold 500 units of this program at $2,000. And I'm gifting it to the first 9 of you. So the first 9 of you who say, yep, I'd love to join you at Wealthy Speaker Workshop, you are also going to get Speaking Solution, and you'll get that immediately. You'll get that tomorrow. So we'll make sure you get that. So there you go, folks. I'd love to spend more time with you in a couple of days with you and go in depth with some of what I was able to share and teach today. And I'm just so thankful to be here, and I really appreciate being asked, and hope there was a couple of nuggets that allow you to see speaking through maybe a slightly different lens than some other speakers that you've had. And I'm happy to take questions, Kinston.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. All right, so she said she can take some more questions, but let's give her a round of applause. Some emojis. And so, any questions? Anyone want to come off of mute and ask a question? Lori.
1997?
No, that's a gift to you.
Oh, well, okay.
Everything is free.
Say less.
Yeah. Everything is free. There's not, it's 0-0, but the first 9 of you who step into coming to the event are going to get the Speaking Solution.
That's awesome. Lethea.
I want to ask for the people who aren't here. We have a lot of people who watch our replay, a lot of members who couldn't be here. And so can you just speak a little bit to your offer? We know that the first 9, they're not going to be one of the first 9.
Yeah.
Is there an expiration date for?
There's not an expiration date for this group. I am happy for you to grab it. I'm happy to have you come. I'll tell you, I believe it was Eva who made this connection for me. And Eva Medelik is a former client of mine and a dear friend. And when she asked me, I said, you just tell me what you want me to do, where you want me to be, what do you want me to give them? I was like, don't make me give them everything. I was like, save a little something, but I'm happy to be here. And if I brought you value tonight and you feel like a couple of days of that will bring you more value, my pleasure, happy to have you. And if you weren't able to see me live and you're watching the recording, do it, grab it. It'll still be a good link.
Thank you.
Awesome. Anyone else have a question?
That was yummy.
Oh,
thank you.
Very nice to meet you.
It's real yummy.
Nice to meet you. It's wonderful.
I love your perspective on things. It simplifies life and is very effective. And I love that about you.
Yeah, well, for me, I've done complicated business. This is my 16th year in business, and I still do complicated things because I love to torture myself. But when things get complicated in our business now, we literally all pause and go back to our center, right? Go back to our core. And we deliver speeches that make us sales, right? That's the focus. And the more we speak, the better we do. And of course you learn to scale that, right? We'll talk about that. But I am, what I love to do is entertain and engage and captivate. And it makes it harder to do when the business model is complicated.
That's good. That's good. Kathleen.
All right. Thank you, Suzanne. It was wonderful.
Welcome.
One of the things that really caught my attention was when I forget where it is in my pages of notes, but it was, do this one thing, like speak. So I'm coming from a coaching background. That's where I started, one-on-one coaching. Then I had a, kind of revelation of programming that I could do and built out that programming. But there's always been such a focus on social media in the space I'm in. And honestly, it is not my space, if I may. Yeah. My space is meeting people and speaking and training and transforming their lives, right? Like we all are doing here. So when you said that, I have to be honest, my first thought was, can I really do that? Can I really just focus on speaking? Please tell me that.
You really can. Let me simplify it for you.
Yeah, only because I'm one person in the company. So I don't know if other people are in my boat, but I find the social media life training, it takes so much energy and time.
Yeah.
I'd really rather be
so here's the deal. If you have a solid speech, you have your social media done.
Mm-hmm.
So can you abandon social media? No. And here's why. Because we no longer use websites. Social media is credibility.
Mhm.
So do you need to be living on social media and pouring your energy into it? Absolutely not, Kathleen. But you need to be putting short videos. You need to be doing some lives. That's just speaking, right? You just need to speak on social. You need to use your social platforms as an opportunity to speak. People get confused what social media is, right? You think it's like some crazy matrix of like showing up and posting the right things. No, when COVID went down, I started doing a Facebook Live every single day. And guys, at that point, I was a multi-million dollar business. And you know how many people showed up to those Facebook Lives when I first started? Like 7. No, I did have 7, Kathleen. You might have 0 or 1, but I did have 7. And I remember getting, Lethea, you'll love this. I remember going to my team and saying, y'all, there are 7 people on this. I mean, I thought I was famous. I mean, what is happening here, right? And I just did what I talked about on the bike, right? And I said, I'm going to do it. And then it made me angry. So I'm like, it pissed me off so bad. I'm like, I'm going to be here every day. Within about a 2-month time frame, we were getting 120, 100 to 200 people to show up for those Facebook Lives every day. We created a community called the More Than Okay Club, because I kept hearing what people were saying, and they kept going, am I going to be okay? Is my business going to be okay? Am I going to be okay? So I created a Facebook group called the More Than Okay Club. It was free, let people in, and every single day I did a Facebook Live, which was just a speech, right? I did a 15-minute Facebook Live, right? Sometimes I'd go 20 minutes. And out of that, we grew now I don't even know, Melissa, how many people are in that group, but
I'll check real quick and I'll get a link so you
20,000.
guys can join.
I don't
Yeah.
know. But at that time, it was like it grew to 3,000, then 5,000, then 8,000. And all of those Facebook Lives, when COVID was done, I had a team member scoop them all up, and we turned it into a book called Win No Matter What. And so don't over engineer social media. You just need to do it enough where if an event planner goes and looks you up, they can find something. But if social media is not your jam to get your clients, then don't. Although I'll tell you, I have a client, Christy Staub, who she works with corporate, and she works with Levi's and Lexus. And I kind of said, you're doing all these things really well. She was doing the speaking and meeting people really well. That's how she got all of her clients. I said, now let's move into the social a little bit. And I got a text from her 2 hours ago, and she said, I did a post. Somebody said, I'm finally ready to need you, Christy. She called him this afternoon, and she ran $15,000 an hour and a half ago. So Kathleen, let it go if it's not your thing, but don't throw it away, right? Just have enough on there that it's your credibility, because people look at social more than they look at websites now for credibility. So you can't look not credible, but you don't need it to be your primary source for marketing and leads.
Yeah, that's good. Just to tag on this, if I may, for a moment. So I apologize to my sisters and brothers for taking too much time on this question, but I have, I have a channel on YouTube that I did videos for a long time, and podcast. And in this recent span where I'm making some shifts, I found I didn't have the extra energy to keep going there, because I'm trying to focus on the shift. And I just literally energy wise didn't have that. And I wanted to honor not hurting myself by going deep and exhausting myself, hurting my marriage and my life. And I thought, is that okay? At least that they see that I've existed. It's just that you're in a gap, if you will. And I think Lethea.
The other thing is, don't overthink. And Lethea is so brilliant.
He said, don't worry about the messy middle. You're in the messy middle. Don't worry about it, girlfriends. Because
Kathleen, you know what people say to me all the time? They go, I changed my business. How do I deal with that on social media? I say, wake up on a Tuesday morning and just start talking about that new business. Like nobody, here's the other thing. When I told you to tell we stories, not me stories, here's the other secret. Nobody's paying any attention to you.
I'm so glad, because that's what I'm actually going with.
They're not. They just don't like. You're going to show up and start talking about whatever you show up, and they're not going to go, where? Oh my God, where has Kathleen been? I'm going to spend an hour researching her former post to see how long nobody cares. Just wake up on a Tuesday morning and get the job done.
All right. And I'm hoping the people that I bump into that are thinking of hiring me to speak and train their teams and stuff are going to say, hey, she's been out there. There's some life out there. She's not dead. It's going to look at the date, I trust. They'll miss the date, right, Lethea? All right, that's good, ladies. I just need to hear that. I pray that one of my brothers and sisters out here also needed to hear that. So I'll leave it at that.
Turn up Tuesday.
So then what you shared with Kathleen is I just like that we need a megaphone because if
Mm.
you show up and wow them today, they're in the moment. All they're thinking about is how you're making them feel right now. Even if they later went and looked at what you haven't done, it can't even compare to how you made them feel when you engaged with them, when you connected with them, when you were present with them or you shared with them. So just kill the moment, like crush the moment and let everything else just wait the results in peace.
And we know that most people are scrolling out of distraction. They're not scrolling out of education. Right? Now, once they like you, they may look to be educated, right? And then follow you. But how many of you picked up your phone today and went on TikTok or went on anything and said, I'm just going to go into my education time right now and spit? No, you went, I do not want to do the dishes, but I want to talk, right? That's 90% of how we're using social, right? So just know that. So your job is to steal the show. It's not to worry about what the show was yesterday. Joe Calloway says this better than anybody. He says it brilliantly. He says, nobody cares what you did yesterday, right? Everybody is in the right now, in this moment. So steal the show right now. Don't worry about anything else.
So good. So good. Any other questions?
Complaint. Anybody got a complaint?
No, I have a question. Where have you been all my life? Just for me, it was refreshing because all the things that speakers do haven't really resonated with me, and everything you said resonated with me because all the things that I've been uncomfortable with, which is a traditional way of speaking, has stopped me from going out there. See, look at that. Hold on. Has stopped me from doing things because that was the traditional way, and I've always done it untraditionally, which is just just a nod of just keep doing what feels right. And it doesn't have to be
I'll tell you, in my 16 years of speaking, I was thinking about this yesterday. In my 16 years of speaking, doing $75 million from speaking, guys, I've trained thousands and thousands of speakers who make hundreds of thousands of dollars in their business. I've never spoken at an NSA group in my life. This is the first one. First one. And thank you for having me. And now I might be banned, but I appreciate you having.
Nope.
But there's kind of a reason for it, Lori. I have to be honest. I think that the speaking model doesn't create interesting people with the potential for revenue. I think it creates speaking robots.
That part. I get that. And the whole not speaking about yourself, all the things that speakers say, and that's not why I got into it, to tell stories about myself, honestly. And yet I've been compelled to come up with a crafted story that, I climbed the mountain or what have you. So a lot of what you said was counterintuitive to why I got into speaking. And as you said before, it makes sense when you just do it, make it simple, keep it simple.
And let me do this. Might I end on this? Just take maybe 90 seconds to end on this. Okay.
Absolutely.
I have a philosophy and a saying that says you can be anything but boring. Be anything but boring. I had a speaker group that I had led. This is when Larry Wingett and I actually before he retired, we were teaching together. And we're preaching, be anything but boring. Like, stop worrying about this, but just don't be boring. Steal the show. And there was a woman named Penny who was a former pro golfer. And we did a speaker kind of showcase. And people got up there and nailed it, right? I mean, they had been working hard. They'd shared great stories. People loved them. And Penny got up on stage and lost her mind a little bit. I don't know what the hell she was talking about. She was walking back and forth. She at one point said, is there something going on in the room? She said, have they taken all the air out of the room? I can barely breathe. I'm so thirsty. Is anybody else thirsty? And she grabs a thing of water. The audience was doubled over laughing. She would just come up with these one-liners. She'd talk to people in the audience. It was, I think they were all doing 12-minute talks. It was 12 minutes of absolute escapism with this wild woman on stage being hysterical and irreverent and in the moment. And when we ended the showcase that day, people had tables with their books at it. And everybody had a nice little line, and Penny's was wrapped around the room.
Mm.
Because people don't give a shit what you say. They care about how you make them feel. And Penny made everybody feel free and laugh and seen and vulnerable. And she made some points. Let me be clear too. Like, she kind of brought it home a couple of times, but we get in the room after that and we're kind of sharing with everybody how they did. And we said, Larry and I both said, Penny, we have no idea what you said. You didn't say anything in your speech. You didn't do anything that was planned, but you stole the show. Congratulations.
Mm.
So be anything but boring.
Love it.
So good. So good. Woo! Well, Suzanne, thank you so much for sharing your gift with us at Black NSA. We truly appreciate you for doing so. Teresa, if you want to just bring that Talk of That slide up, and everyone, if you can give some great feedback for Suzanne. Laura, you got
Can I
one more
make a
question?
comment on behalf of Lethia's theme for the year? Welcome to the family.
Welcome to the family. That's good.